Hi everybody, my name is Lillian and I work with Institute for Study Abroad, or IFSA or IFSA. I'm sure you might be familiar with the logo that's behind my head, embedded on a photo of New Zealand. So I'm going to do kind of an overview of the programs that IFSA runs that Brandeis sends students on. And then I'm going to try and leave a lot of time for questions at the end, because I know you might have questions specific to your programs of interest, or maybe you're trying to decide between a few. So I'm going to switch over to a PowerPoint. I can share my screen.
Try again, sorry.
All right. I think that should work. Tell me if you can't see the lovely purple presentation. I'm gonna move things. Look at the camera while I have my presentation going. Okay, so I just wanted to start by giving a brief overview of what IFSA is. IFSA, as I call myself, it's short for Institute for Study Abroad, and we're a nonprofit study abroad organization with staff all around the world, and we're over 30 years old. We were founded on the campus of Butler University in Indianapolis. And I think it's important for you to know that as a study abroad organization, we kind of work independently. We have partnerships with US institutions like Brandeis and a whole bunch of other schools. And we have relationships with the foreign institution abroad, or we run our own programs. My team and I don't earn any commission, so whatever program you choose, we want you to choose the best program for you. I don't get anything from directing you a certain way, and I think that that's important for you to know. And in the field, we're known for our innovation and our commitment to equity and inclusion and our strong student services. So jumping into it, we have locations all around the world, but these are the countries where Brandeis sends students on our programs. So we have some in Latin America, in Argentina, Chile, Costa Rica, Cuba, Mexico, and Peru. In Europe, Brandeis uses our programs in England, Ireland, and Scotland. And then in Asia and the Pacific, we have programs in Australia, India, and New Zealand, which students participate in. And I'll go into a bit more depth by region and give you some key highlights about the programs. Starting with Latin America, these programs that we have in Argentina, in Chile, in Merida, Mexico, in Heredia, Costa Rica, and Havana, Cuba, in Lima, Peru, all of these are Spanish intensive programs. And you have to have completed through the 200 level or equivalent. So you need to be through intermediate Spanish in order to be eligible to participate in these programs. And actually, to go to Cuba, we asked that you have an additional semester of Spanish. So kind of through the early classes of 300 level in order for you to go to Cuba. And this is really important because on all of these programs, you're going to be taking your classes at host universities. And with those host universities, you're going to be taking them in Spanish and sitting next to local students. So it's very intensive in that you are using your Spanish all of the time, but this allows you the great opportunity to truly experience a host university program, to get to have a student experience in that host country, but with the support of the IFSA program staff that are there with you. So when you arrive, we do orientation, we teach you about the cultural norms, we introduce you to the campuses, and you'll have kind of a student orientation there as well. But our job is to help you be as successful as possible. So there are usually classes offered at the IFSA host center. The one exception is Cuba, where you do take all of your classes at University of Havana. But on the other programs, you will have the option to take an intensive Spanish class with just the IFSA program students. And then depending on the country you go to, in Argentina, there are some IFSA taught classes related to human rights, Argentine literature, Argentine politics, which you can opt into. In Chile, we usually have classes related to kind of Chilean culture, Chilean history, as well as a service learning or internship component that you can opt into. It's all about Chilean culture. In Mexico, they have an Exploring Community and Culture class all about the Yucatan Peninsula that IFSA coordinates. In Costa Rica, we have an ecology class that's really popular with students that are interested in ecology and environmental science. And in Lima, Peru, there's a Peruvian social realities class that gets you out into the community learning about all of the different ethnic groups and different socioeconomic groups that make up Peru and Lima. So it's kind of endless what you can take at the various host institutions on top of your IFSA classes. If you're a STEM student who's also doing Spanish, you do have STEM opportunities. There are, of course, a myriad of classes related to Latin American culture, Latin American history, politics, music, kind of anything that you're interested in, we can find for you. And you get to mix and match your classes. So if you go to Lima, Peru, there's one host university, Pontificia Universidad Católica, that you would attend. But if you go to Merida, Mexico, there's actually 2 universities that you choose your classes from. And if you go to Argentina, there are 3 universities. So you can mix and match and take one class at one university and maybe 2 at another, or 3 at one. So you have a lot of options. And one of the most important things in Latin America is that primarily students do live with homestay families. And these are homestay families that have engaged with IFSA for a very long time. So they've hosted multiple students over the years. Usually it's 1 student per family, and they provide all or the majority of your meals. Now, for this coming fall and potentially in the spring, depending on how vaccines for COVID go, we might have restrictions on homestay family use because not that we don't think they're safe for you, it's actually that a lot of our homestays have elderly family members that are a part of them. So we want to do our best to protect our homestay families. So in Mexico, it's a residencia, which is sort of like a mix between an apartment and a dorm that we plan for students to live in. In Cuba, there are, they're kind of single, what do I say? You still live with a Cuban home, but it's more of an independent kind of apartment setup in the Cuban home. In Argentina, it's apartments. So it kind of varies by different location. And we'll have more updates about this as we progress further to the next academic year. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to Europe now. These are primarily in the British Isles, and these programs are all supported direct enroll programs. So taught in English, but you would come in as an IFSA student and take all of your classes at either King's College London, at Oxford University, at SOAS, University of London, which is the School of Oriental and Asian Studies. So it's a very specialized institution, or University College London. So those are the options in England. If you went up to Scotland, you've got opportunity to study at the University of Edinburgh and the University of St. Andrews, which are, I have to say, all of these are very prestigious institutions. So you have some really great options. And then if you jump over to Ireland, you have opportunities at Trinity College Dublin, at University College Dublin, and the National University of Ireland in Galway. And I actually studied in Galway a long time ago, before all of you were probably born, but I still highly recommend that institution. It was a wonderful experience. All of these universities have some specialties that they're really highly regarded for. King's College London, really famous for kind of their entire curriculum, I should say, but we often get students that are interested in politics, social science. There's a pre-med track that they also have. So it really runs the gamut of subjects that they offer. For Oxford, again, probably the most prestigious option in the IFSA catalog of opportunities. We get students that are there trying to study English literature, math, computer science, physics, kind of all of the above. Oxford is unique because you're going to go study in the tutorial method. So you really focus on one subject primarily, potentially 2 if you're a double major, and you do a lot of independent learning, but with guidance from 1 or 2 faculty who are considered your tutors, and they meet with you. They're one-on-one or in small groups, so you and 3 or 4 other students who are studying the same subject, and they tailor this class to the interest of the students that are in that tutorial. So you never will have the same exact experience as a student who went to Oxford the year before you, even if you're both history majors or math majors. It's very unique, it's very dynamic, and very much focused on critical exploration and independent learning and inquiry and discovery and learning how to concisely, when I say concisely, stand your ground when you're making an argument about the importance of some historical fact or new theory. SOAS, as I said, that's a specialty university. They really do focus on Oriental and Asian studies, but they have amazing world languages, pretty unique opportunities for stuff that's not really taught in other locations. University College London also uses an intense subject. You would go in and say, I want to study politics, and then they would assign you to a department. It's not quite the tutorial method of Oxford, but it is an intense semester, and you really just apply to one department there, and you're going to have an intense academic experience related to that subject. Going back up to Scotland, University of St. Andrews, I'd say, is kind of the dark horse in the race of top institutions in the US in particular. I don't think we know very much about it or talk very much about St. Andrews, but it's consistently ranked in the top 3 universities in the world, or at least in the UK, usually falling, well, actually it beat out Cambridge recently. So Oxford, Cambridge, and St. Andrews are often talked about as the best universities in the whole UK. St. Andrews has kind of a Hogwarts vibe to it. You see students wearing robes. There are different traditions about walking along the pier at certain times of year, and they have balls and academic gatherings, and it has this really old tradition of education in one of the oldest cities in Scotland. So students that are looking for a smaller university experience, because it's not a huge town, it's not a huge university, but they tend to really enjoy all of the tradition and pomp that's associated with the different academic programs, which are quite academically rigorous. University of Edinburgh is one of the largest universities in Scotland, and it is quite popular with a wide array of subjects. It's really famous for economics. We also get a lot of sociology, history, politics, international relations students, and STEM students who go there. But there are a huge number of famous economists as well as philosophers who are affiliated with the University of Edinburgh. So that draws a lot of students. And then going back over to Ireland, Trinity College Dublin historically was like the super prestigious university in Ireland. But if you know the history of Ireland, you'll know that they kind of restricted participation from certain groups in Ireland. So University College Dublin has risen up over the years to become the top university, the largest university in Ireland. And they are really highly regarded for their STEM coursework. We have some really excellent undergraduate research opportunities at University College Dublin as well. Trinity College Dublin uses a similar tutorial method and intensive subject method that you see at Oxford and at University College London. And then going over to the western side of Ireland, National University of Ireland in Galway. It's a smaller institution. They kind of offer everything. In the west of Ireland, there's a really strong study of the traditions of Ireland, from traditional music, traditional dance, traditional language, so the traditional Irish or Gaelic language. So they offer a huge array of classes related to Irish history, Irish culture, Irish literature, Irish politics. So that's often popular with our students. On all of these programs, the housing tends to vary between residence hall or apartments, depending on the location. University College Dublin students live in apartments that are nearby the city. Trinity College Dublin also requires apartments. The University College Dublin apartments are a bit closer to the student classes and everything. Trinity College is located in the historic city center of Dublin, so there's just less housing in the immediate vicinity. So students often have a little bit of a commute, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then National University of Ireland, Galway, very walkable campus. Students usually live in residence hall style apartments, a just short walk from the campus itself. Okay, so switching to the Pacific Islands, Brandeis has 3 opportunities in Australia and 3 in New Zealand. So the opportunities in Australia are the University of Melbourne, University of Sydney, and University of Queensland, which is in Brisbane city. These are all large comprehensive universities. So when I talk to students who are interested in these locations or these going to Australia and are choosing between these 3 distinct cities for their studies, I really encourage you to look at what's available to me on the campus that aligns with not just my academics, but also that aligns to my personal interests and where do I see myself being most successful. Sydney, of course, is probably the most well-known Australian city for Americans. And of course, if you go there, you can experience, Sydney Harbor, seeing the Opera House, all of those famous sites that you might be familiar with. But I often have students that are looking for something outside of a big city or a city of that size, and they decide to go to Melbourne. Melbourne is consistently ranked as one of the top cities to live in the entire world because of just the layout of the city. There's lots of green space. There's lots of different cultural groups represented. It just is consistently a place where people are really happy, and students also enjoy the opportunity to live in that city and experience kind of Melbourne culture on top of Australian culture. Brisbane is also a great location in Australia. The University of Queensland does have a lot of science and STEM related courses that are often popular with our IFSA students. So depending on what you're looking for course-wise, you might find that that helps you determine where you want to go in Australia. And I will show you a system that we have that makes it a bit easier to search some of these different courses as well as the different things available in each location. If we go over to New Zealand, you've got 3 options: University of Auckland, University of Otago, which is in Dunedin, and Victoria University Wellington. University of Auckland is the biggest university in New Zealand, and it's important to also note that Auckland itself, if you're familiar with New Zealand, is at the very top of the North Island of New Zealand, and 1/3 of the entire population of the country of New Zealand lives around Auckland. So if you're looking for an urban environment, like this is the program that you're going to want to go to in New Zealand. So the university, as I've said, biggest in New Zealand, it's got over 30,000 students that attend it. They also offer a ton of majors, a ton of academic programs. Auckland in particular is consistently ranked as in the top 5 most innovative universities in the entire world. So they do a lot of interesting stuff with innovation design from a science standpoint, also from a business standpoint. There are really fascinating clubs that you can join on campus. They have a really great makerspace that any student can go in, and it's got anything from tools to build stuff, electronic pieces. If you're trying to make circuit boards, they've got sewing machines. They have everything if you're a creative person. If we switch gears, I'm actually going to talk about Victoria University of Wellington next, because Wellington is the capital city of New Zealand, and it's on the North Island as well. It's at the bottom part of the North Island of New Zealand. Wellington is the capital of New Zealand, so Victoria really benefits from the proximity to the kind of government and financial capital. They have great classes for politics, sociology, anything related to policy. They also have really interesting stuff for science because they have a very great location that's accessible to the bay and the harbor and the ocean, as well as some kind of temperate rainforest university forests that you can go in and study at. They have a club on campus called the Victoria International Leadership Program, and it's for visiting students, and it's a leadership development program where you can go in and learn about different topics. Usually they have to do with some geopolitical policy. There's often guest speakers that are coming to meet with the New Zealand Parliament. So when I visited this program a couple of years ago, they had just had the environmental minister of Japan, who came by and spoke with the students and gave a talk on the hunting of whales, which was really, of course, a passionate topic for all the students involved. And it was really eye-opening for them to see what had gone into the policy decision in Japan to actually start allowing whale hunting again. So it was quite, a passionate topic for these students to discuss and talk with this leader about. And then jumping down to University of Otago, which is on the Dunedin Peninsula, in the South Island. This is the oldest university in New Zealand, and it was founded in the 1860s, so it's similar to the land grant institutions in the US. There's a picture of it on this slide. Otago offers a huge array of classes. It's the second biggest university in the country. It's got kind of the historical majors that you associate with most US institutions, so the full array of STEM subjects, full array of social science, liberal arts related subjects. It's quite well known for a sporting culture, so there's lots of sports teams around the town that students love to go watch and cheer for. It's also really it would be the university town in New Zealand. It's not a huge town, but basically everybody who lives in Otago or in Dunedin is totally affiliated with the university in some way. So it has that kind of college town feeling that you get with some cities in the US too. So on all of these programs, the housing tends to be residence hall or apartments. And I will point out that we do get a lot of biology and environmental science students that go to both of these locations just because of the different climate and different species of plants and animals that are available to be seen and explored and studied in Australia and New Zealand. So last program I wanted to talk about is our program in India. It's in Pune and it focuses on contemporary India. This program is different from all the rest that I talked about because it really focuses on, it's taught at an IFSA center. So it'll be you and other IFSA students that are focusing on this topic, but it's rather interdisciplinary. So everybody takes one class related to contemporary India, and then you choose electives like developmental economics or social justice or gender and public media or public health. And then everybody does either an internship, a directed research experience, or makes a documentary film. And you don't have to have prior experience in any of those areas. We actually teach you how to do it from the very beginning. And the directed research and documentary film piece and internship, that's all tailored to your interests. You get to choose the subject that you're going to delve into, and we find you kind of an expert to be your faculty guide through your semester. For the internships in particular, we're looking at matching your professional skills and your academic interests with the placement that we find for you. So there's a photo of a student. She's a mechanical engineering student, and she really wanted to work in adaptive design. And we got her placement at a company that makes prosthetic devices for a hospital in Pune. So that was her internship for the semester. So I do want to give a shout out to summer opportunities. I know you have a separate summer opportunities event coming up later in the semester, but we do have options to go to Oxford University. Then there are 3 internship placements that we have in Mexico, in India, and in Argentina. It's similar to what I explained prior. We have different topics, but we build you a match to your skill set. And these are 8-week internships in the summer that are worth 6 credits. So I know I'm running out of time. I'm going to skip these last slides. I want to show you what's included in an IFSA program because we do include the insurance, all the activities, your academic experience is covered. There's IFSA staff to help you. You get a transcript at the end. And I think it's really important you know what you're getting and what you should do now. There are 2 resources on the IFSA website that are quite helpful for you to decide on program. One is our Global Wayfinder search tool. So you can, on our homepage, search for programs, and you can push a little button and have it just show you what's on the Brandeis approved list. But if you really dig into this, there's a section called day-to-day experience and interest. So if you are really wanting to live in an apartment and you're an early riser because you like to go jogging in the morning and you're also super into gaming with your friends, you can put in your interests, and that'll help filter down the IFSA programs that are the right match for what you're interested in. And the reason we let students search by all the academic needs as well as interests is that we know that you want to continue kind of socializing. We know that you want to take advantage of the things that help you relieve stress while you're a student. So we want to send you to a place where you can be in those clubs that you like. You can meet people that are like-minded and really bond with them through another way during your experience. The other system that we have is called Chart, and that's our searchable online course database. So on our website, you can make a little login and You can filter by country that you're interested in or subject. Like if you're a math major and you need to see what you can take for math classes in Ireland, you can look in the chart system because it's populated with all of the classes that recent IFSA students took on the past 5 years. There are over 17,000 classes in this database, so the filter is really important, but you can read a description of the course. Often we have syllabi uploaded in there as well.